Hi, welcome to part 3 of Fascism in Europe. The first part was the first couple of weeks of my class, a summary of it, and then you got to see David Pugh lecturing on fascism and the origins of fascism in Europe. And now this part 3 is several of the weeks 3 to 7 of my course, and I hope that this course will inspire you. This online abbreviated version will inspire you to learn and teach about fascism in order to resist fascism's allure and recognize its guises and diagnose abetting conditions, historicize, compare, and demythologize. So let's jump right in and talk a little bit about European geopolitics prior to World War II, and we're going to take Germany as a case study. A recognizable forerunner of the Germany that we know today was unified under constitutional monarchy in 1871. And I say it that way because I think that we make the mistake of thinking that nations are immutable, and we could instead recognize that they're always changing and transitioning, and and geopolitics determines a lot what we consider a nation to be. And the dominant read these days is that Germany, like the Germany we know, was unified through Chancellor Otto von Bismarck's work under King Wilhelm I of Prussia. And Bismarck used a series of wars in order to create support among the many German polities in the region, or German-speaking polities in the region. And one of the wars was notably with France, the Franco-Prussian War. And in 1871, and this is what we're seeing in the picture, Wilhelm I was crowned Emperor of the new German Reich in Versailles, in the Hall of Mirrors. So that'd be in France, as the Franco-Prussian War was ending. And this symbolic gesture of Germany's besting of France was a snub that shirred French resentment and rivalry, and it helped to destabilize a modernizing Europe. Of course, in generally speaking, the modernization of Europe, which was increasing capitalization, urbanization, sorry, that was just a little technical glitch that I did manage to fix. So let's talk about Europe and modern Europe, Europe modernizing. Industrialization, urbanization, capitalization of public goods were destabilizing Europe at this time. There were large class disparities between, for example, workers who were working in urban factories. They were working in mines. They had really no union representation. They weren't working together. Then there were the owners of these enterprises doing much better, and the aristocrats, sort of leftover aristocratic class that were very much used to having a very good life. And there was a lot of struggle and strife between them. And there were strikes, the rise of the left-leaning parties, and there were labor unions, a lot going on. To maintain control over the workers and to maintain the stability of the societal system in Germany, Chancellor Bismarck banned the left-wing Social Democratic Party. And I do have this same technical problem happening again, unfortunately. Hopefully I'll be able to fix that. Well, I can work with that. So that's technology for you. But anyway, here we are. Bismarck aimed to avoid changing the actual labor structures that favored the capitalist class and the aristocrats. So instead of changing that, he simply placated the workers with social welfare systems, sort of, insurance and pension schemes. So their life was a little bit better than it was before, but without actually changing the structure. In addition to the production and the profits that were created by European workers, Germany and other industrializing nations needed more raw materials, even more than could be produced in Europe in the mines and so forth, and they needed more markets. Enter the colonies. So colonies, including lands in Eastern Europe, more informally, seem to offer such raw materials and also export markets. That infamous concept of Lebensraum that we know from Hitler, the room for living, was used by the Nazis. That was a commonplace idea that had been around for a while. The Berlin Conference, which you might have heard of 1884, in that Berlin Conference, in which the European colonizers regulated their own colonization of and trade in particularly Africa, inaugurated the German powers' scramble for Africa, is what it's called. And the European control of that continent increased from 10% in 1870 to 90% in 1914. An enormous change. Here we see an example, which is Germany's colonization of Namibia, then German Southwest Africa. It involved the first 20th century genocide, the Namibian genocide, between 1904 and 1908. The indigenous people fought back hard against colonization, for instance, in the Herero Wars and the Mai Mai Rebellion. Many died and many were killed. Indeed, 80% of the total Herero population and 50% of the total Namakwa population died fighting, starvation, dehydration, and overwork in camps such as Shark Island concentration camp. After World War I, Germany lost its colonies to other European nations. The Versailles Treaty was signed at the 1919 Paris Peace Treaty in the very same Versailles Hall of Mirrors, in which Wilhelm I was proclaimed German emperor. This snub fostered more resentment and rivalry this time on the part of the Germans. So we see that there's a lot of tensions in the environment of Europe and also in the colonies, lots of war going on and a lot of class struggle. And somewhat earlier, towards the end of World War II, there was struggle during the war. People don't often talk about dissent during war. You're supposed to rally behind the flag. But indeed, the military at the front and the civilian populations at home were suffering to the point of starvation, to the point of freezing to death. There were pandemics, the Spanish flu of 1918. We might want to write, and I'm sure people are writing, a whole new history of the world based around the importance of and the significance, the strength of what we call non-human actors, such as viruses. Right now, our story is about people, and so I'm continuing the story talking about people. Maybe we should be talking about viruses. In any case, the people on the front and at home were struggling to survive. And in Russia, popular revolts in 1918 and 1919 against the monarchic Tsars and for bread and peace led to socialist revolution and eventually Bolshevik victory and the communist Soviet Union. On March 8th, 1917, St. Petersburg, female textile workers led a large and successful strike. They demanded bread, peace, and down with autocracy. And a month later, on April 16th, 1917, Petrograd, St. Petersburg, Lenin declared the Socialist Republic. I find it interesting that we have Mother's Day brought to us by Hallmark. International Women's Day honors that women's strike in St. Petersburg, and it stands for equal rights for women, and for peace, for not sending women's children into wars, for instance. Women are often involved in trying to stop their children from being sent to wars. Parents are often involved. The idea of supporting the troops and bringing them home. Rank and file Germans were inspired by events in Russia, and they were driven by suffering and starvation as well. Service members and civilians alike. And there had been a blockade of Germany by the British fleet, which meant the starving of German industrial workers, civilians. After all, working in middle classes typically suffer more in war. Elites tend to benefit financially by war and can often protect themselves from the worst physical problems of all, and challenges that happen through war. In Germany, in the Kieler Matrosenaufstand, which is the Kiel Mutiny, it's known as the Kiel Mutiny, sailors mutinied when they were asked to go into a battle that they would certainly lose, and that on empty stomachs. The November Revolution of 1918-1919 helped end the German Empire, World War I, and also to establish the democratic Weimar Republic. So Dr. Pugh discussed Weimar, including political shifts and debates, economic instability, war reparations, and humiliations. And here are a few highlights of that story that I'm going to tell. And, you know, everybody tells history a little bit differently, and the university is a place for the public sphere debates. Here, I'd like to show an image that he might have shown as well. In this new fragile democracy of Weimar, many elites, you know, they were unhappy because the monarchic system that had given them a good life had ended. And moreover, many people in Germany were suffering. There was huge inflation, disease, hunger. Victorious nations were demanding reparations of the Germans. They were very high reparations. It was leading to all kinds of inflation, and the Germans felt humiliated. Remember the Versailles Hall of Mirrors and the resentment. The Dolchenstoß legende, the stab in the back legend, blamed World War I defeat on women, communists, and Jews. And you can see that image, how it's a bit of a conglomeration there, the image of the character holding the dagger. To many Germans, the expression stab in the back evoked Richard Wagner's 1876 opera Götterdämmerung, which is about the Nibelungenlied, where Siegfried, who's the hero, who's bathed in dragon blood and just has one woundable place, is then killed by his supposed friend Hagen at that woundable place, partly because Siegfried's female partner tells Hagen where he's able to be injured. So this is a very, very much an intrigue, this story that involves also very strong heroes in this Germanic kind of blood and soil Germany. So this idea resonated a lot among many German people, and it actually was deployed very strategically by elites in Germany. This masculinist myth that was face-saving for the militaristic powers and for the elites. And then this stab in the back legend, untrue legend, myth, was used by the Nazis to gain support for the Second World War. It has, of course, been repeatedly disproven, and you can read more about it. The fact was that the Germans were simply overwhelmed at the front with their idea of such an expansive war, and their idea of having the kinds of success in war that they had under Bismarck. In this case, they were simply overwhelmed, and the troops who were mutinying and the civilians who were mutinying because they were starving. And many were also rebelling against the increasing socio-economic inequality in Europe that I'd been talking about previously with industrialization and the and the ending of the monarchy, and then this kind of new system with no kinds of protection for workers. Many workers, not only in Russia, but in Germany and in many places, wanted socialism. They wanted a social democratic system. They wanted something where they would also be able to reap some of the benefits that they were producing, some of the value that they were producing with their labor. Consider the socioeconomic disparities that continued into the Weimar Republic after World War II. Here I've chosen an image of Heinrich Zille's barn quarter courtyard, and you can see maybe the outhouse there and the water that's shared by at least everybody in the back part of the courtyard. Maybe the people in the front house that faces the street might have a little bit larger rooms, more comforts, and typically most of and the people that would be living in the side or in the back would be just living very cramped, bad ventilation, little light, poverty, disease, this shared water and one shared privy. Lots of disease and discomfort. This barn quarter is also called the Jewish quarter, with some rich assimilated, mostly Ashkenazi Jews in the front house, and then in the courtyard and in the back wings of the house, less assimilated working class, mostly Sephardic Jews. Compare to this photograph of the 2,000-seat atrium cinema in the upscale Berlin Wilmersdorf neighborhood. You remember that that media was so important during the Weimar period, and think of the difference of being somebody who would walk to the cinema or take the car to the cinema, compared to living in those in the Scheunenviertel. Remember that this disparity was global, pretty much global at the time. Think of F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby. Perhaps you've read, and Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath, the 20s and the 30s, with that caesura of the 1929 stock market crash that had repercussions globally. That then was a rather abrupt ending, perhaps, to the historical context. And I'd like to now talk about two thinkers on fascism. There are so many people that write on fascism, and I find these particular texts very important, and I wanted to give you a gloss on Moishe Postone's The Holocaust and the Trajectory of the 20th Century. He's talking about Hitler and referencing, for example, Mein Kampf. In Weimar, there was unrest and inflation, and many Jews were assimilated. I had mentioned these citizens were influential. They were German citizens, influential in cultural spheres, for example, literary salons. They were patrons of the arts. They were artists themselves, influencing culture, and banking. And we might recall, and maybe you don't know, that back in the Middle Ages, Jews were not allowed to own property, and land was the way to make money. So Jewish people worked as traders, and they lent money because they were, like, their religion allowed them to earn interest on the money that they lent. That was how they survived. And with industrialization, there was a switch where land couldn't assure you money in the same way that having money to lend and to get back and to then finance things with, being a banker was really the way to make money. And resentment grew among non-Jewish people for that reason. Hitler presented the following mythic model, and by mythic, I say powerful, influential, but misleading, false. He imagined capital as being divided into two. One, finance capital owned by Jewish people, and the other, quote unquote good capital owned by Germans. So Germany's problem was only finance capital. And so to purge the Jews was to solve that problem. And through this false logic, Hitler won over many employers and the owners of industrial enterprises. Certainly, it stands to reason that that one might benefit under that kind of logic if one owned an industry, for example. And Hitler needed to win over the workers. And how could a worker be won over? Because Hitler was asking workers to identify against their class, against the people that they were rubbing shoulders with on the factory floors, also across Europe. They should identify with the German industrial capital of the employer and with their German employer. They should not identify as a working class horizontally across national lines, for example, or even just across factory lines, but as a nation, they should identify vertically along across class lines. Let me take an excursus to say, people sometimes wonder why National Socialists are not socialists. After all, it's in their name. Early in the Nazi period, the parties saw to the material needs of the working class, for instance, by providing employment and food and stabilizing the economy and seeking to make these workers, feel included in the new, powerful, purifying German project. They perpetuated a myth of National Socialism. So socialism meaning, in this case, for the good of all working people. However, workers, many then soldiers, were sacrificed to the war effort. People mark 1934, the Night of the Long Knives, that purged the SA leadership, including Strasser and Röhm. The Night of the Long Knives could have been about other things as well, and the SA weren't exactly the friendliest people that one might ever know. But at the same time, that night purged the elements in the Nazi Party who wanted more benefits for working class Germans. And from that time on, we can say that National Socialism was about the Nazi Party benefiting from close connections with big business and vice versa, and also other large organizations such as the church. To go back to Postone's take on Hitler's words in Catastrophe and Meaning, the book, Hitler also metaphorized the Jews as a plague that made the national body sick. According to Hitler, Jews were also responsible for communism, the infiltrating, contaminating with ideas about communism, internationalism, horizontal kinds of identification rather than identification with the national body in a vertical fashion. For Hitler, of course, communism and socialism were actually bad. Hitler also asserted further that Jews wanted only their own benefit from any situation. For instance, even if they were promoting internationalism, that was always already only for their own gain. So why do so many people in Germany and around the world find these xenophobic ideas so compelling? Well, Postone in this case here, in the case of the Holocaust of Shoah, argues that the widespread scapegoating of the Jews is misdirected fury against a capitalist system that is causing so much suffering, that people aren't seeing the bigger structure and are scapegoating a weaker group, for example, a group that they see as different. Postone is mostly interested in Jews and the suffering of Jews, but we may also think about the scapegoating of all people who did not fit the supremacist paradigm of the Nazis. And we should also remember that the people who died in the Holocaust were many, that all kinds of people that would be different, right? People who were physically or mentally challenged or had different abilities, people who loved people of their same gender, people who were Catholics or people who weren't willing to go to war to fight, etc., etc. Important for us to remember. And to emphasize again Postone's point about the scapegoating of the Jews, instead of seeing the problem of the larger capitalist system of exploitation and the way that the fury that developed in people because of that system got misdirected elsewhere. I'm going to talk with you now about Jason Stanley on fascism and the Holocaust just briefly. And this book is really so readable. I really just recommend it to everybody. It's a basis for my course. Stanley agrees with the situation as we've been talking about it up till now. And now I'd like to give you a chance to read the top there. Extreme economic inequality is toxic to liberal democracy because it breeds delusions that mask reality. Those who benefit are inclined to believe that they have earned their privilege. Even those who demonstratively not benefit from hierarchies can be made to believe that they do. Hence the use of racism to ensnare poor white citizens in the United States into supporting tax cuts for extravagantly wealthy whites who happen to share their skin color. And we can talk about all kinds of right-wing thinking that involves all kinds of scapegoating of people who are seen as different. Which brings me to identity politics. I remember back in the day, the idea that identity politics was going to solve all of the problems because people who were banding together in order to create change in the world weren't recognizing enough the differences between different people. For example, women were often then discriminated against on the basis of their gender in groups that they fought in groups in which people fought hand in hand in order to create change. So identity politics definitely has made some difference towards equity. Seeing these differences has been helpful, but identity politics can also feed into scapegoating, and it can feed into xenophobia because it essentializes difference. It can mean that people essentialize difference. They can become dogmatic and divisive. And also identity politics tends, especially in the West, has been ignoring class differences and is now playing into the hands of elites. And I give you two books that you could read on the topic. What's happening is that small groups scapegoat each other while ultra-privileged benefit from this infighting and the lack of strategic solidarity that these small groups have. And identity politics can feel so right. It can feel so comforting, and it can be mesmerizing. I'm going to talk about the allure of fascism in the upcoming section on terms and concepts. And I don't want to say certainly that identity politics is anything near fascist, and I simply point to the way that we need to avoid thinking or basically not thinking and being trapped into the allure of certain ways of thinking. We need to think critically. I want to recall then, when we're thinking critically again, the mesmerizing eyes of Ka, the python, from the culture industry extraordinary producer that is Hollywood. and talk about the mass ornament, which is a concept that was developed closer to the time of fascism as a critique, Nazi fascism, German Nazi fascism, as a critique of fascism. Krakauer's The Mass Ornament attempts to explain the way that mass culture functioned in the unstable, urbanizing and industrializing Weimar Republic. This is a very rich concept, and some of the ways that we can think about it, its participants, the people involved in the mass ornament, and its viewers consider it a valuable, beautiful spectacle that truly represents their modern society. And people also often think of the tiller girls, the people dancing in unison on stage, the chorus line. We can think of the factory and the workers producing in synchronous movement. We can think of Chaplin's Modern Times, in which he's exactly not producing in synchronous movement, and he's exactly throwing a wrench into the machine. And we can think of soldiers marching in uniform, these mesmerizing allure of the mass ornament. It sublimates the individuality of each of the participants in its simultaneous group movements, its gleichgeschaltete group movements, that alignment that is talked about in fascist Germany, when every person, every group, every institution, every shop was to be aligned for one good, one outcome, one goal. The mass ornament is an aesthetic expression of de-individualization, an aesthetic expression of capitalism, in which we remain on the surface and the deeper mechanisms of capitalism remain hidden. It's a deformed and incomplete version of rationality and of reason. It's a superficial, co-optable cult of the body and of materiality. People often think of the Nazi documentary Triumph of the Will through the critical apparatus of critical notion of the mass ornament, in order to understand that the allure of that film. Related, we can think about war as aesthetic and the dangers of thinking of war as aesthetic, the idea of beautiful violence. Walter Benjamin is another person in the Krakauer group, extended group of the Frankfurt School. And in his book, Das Kunstwerk im Zeitalter seiner technischen Reproduzierbarkeit, he writes about politics, violence, and war, and the aestheticization thereof. He writes, fascism attempts to organize the newly created proletarian masses without affecting the property structure. All efforts to render politics aesthetic cultivate in one thing: war. Only war makes it possible to mobilize all of today's technical resources while maintaining the property system. And then he quotes the futurists who were powerful between the war time. War is beautiful because it combines the gunfire, the cannonades, the ceasefire, and the sense, and the stench of putrefaction into a symphony. That's some strong stuff. Two Nazi propaganda films that are interesting in this regard. Germanin is much less known and interesting because of the way that it aestheticizes the colonial experience, making the colonial experience in Africa of the Germans a beautiful thing. The Germans have brought sleeping sickness medicine to the Africans and are saving their lives. What a beautiful story that they tell of the violence. Of course, beautiful violence is commonplace. Think simply of the cycle of heroism, notably war heroism. I'd like to extend it to all sorts of heroes, but let's just stick with war heroism right now, long-standing and pervasive. On the right, we have a Nazi party campaign poster, vote National Socialist, or the victims will have been in vain. The heroes of World War I, of course, wouldn't have died in vain if we win World War II. In this kind of narrative, victims must be heroized. They must be made strong. They must be made into masculine heroes, such as the one that we saw in the Stab in the Back legend poster with his strong jaw and his strong helmet, very macho, masculine kind of guy. Otherwise, common people may not support the war. And Howard Zinn is it occurs to me, Howard Zinn is really the person to read on this, Zinn. I really recommend his excellent work on these kinds of topics of the aestheticization of war, the hero cult, and the way that the war hurts the little guy. On the left, we have a beautiful image here of a poppy. Actually, we have an art installation here by Paul Cummings and Ton Pipers, 888,246 ceramic poppies, one for every British soldier who died in World War I at the Tower of London. It had 5 million visitors. So beautiful, such an aestheticization, a sanitizing, and a mythologization of war at the same time. And I selected a quote: "The myth of the bad war and the good war has become very dangerous insofar as it has conditioned our attitude to war as a whole. The notion that the Second World War was finer and nobler than the first is dubious in itself, since it sanitizes so much, from the slaughter of civilians by Allied bombing to the gang rape of millions of women by our Russian allies at the moment of victory. The idea that the good war was uniquely noble is absurd in view of its moral ambiguities. The importance of having a good war, the good war, can't be overstated because it legitimates future wars and past wars." To emphasize beauty again, the cola bottle with its sexy female in a corset kind of shape traveled between warring nations during the Second World War, and it became an icon of West Germany's miraculous economic recovery, not miraculous so much as desired by the United States, who needed a trading partner in Europe. And so easy to forget, we'll talk about that upcoming, so easy to forget or want or allow forgetting of the Nazi misdeeds and focus on a new day in which the good life, the beautiful life, and full of commodities could flow freely between nations. To put a point on it, as Tim Blackmore writes, the Nazis used the swastika as part of a visually sophisticated propaganda program that was not only modernist, but also the forerunner of contemporary brand identity. The forerunner of contemporary brand identity. Who knew? Nascent corporate culture and war production united to turn national brands like IBM, Coca-Cola, Disney, into multinational corporations that had learned lessons on propaganda and testing during World War II. What a beautiful war. On Nazi fascism and international big business, I offer you part 4, Jacques Pavel's guest lecture, and I suggest that you watch the East German DEFA historical fiction, The Council of the Gods, Der Rat der Götter. And I look forward to seeing you in part 5, when we'll continue talking about what happened after World War II and how the Germans dealt with fascism. Thank you so much.